afternoon. You're listening to the Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. I'm your host, Jasmine Urbina, here in the studio today with my dad and co-host, Alex Urbina.
Yo, what's up?
Hi, Dad. So today we're going to be talking about reading people. And when we say reading people, what is it we're talking about? Because we're not actually reading them. We're maybe observing them or watching them. What does that mean?
Yeah, people are communicating all the time what they're feeling, what they're thinking, and their intentions. And I think that it is something that if you're really conscious and present and intently observing others, people tell on themselves. They tell you what they're feeling and what's going on with them. And it's an art form that you have to develop from a conscious state such that you're able to support them and you in the communication, in the relationship, so that you are able to create maximum value in the relationship. Go ahead.
I was going to say, I like that you use the word unintentional communication, because there's times where I feel like I'm unintentionally putting out either like a vibe or a signal or something that I don't mean to, and people will stop in the middle of their conversation and go, "What's wrong?" I'm like, "Nothing." And they're like, "You made a weird face, or you're not paying attention." So I don't realize that I'm doing those things, and I also can and really like that you're bringing up the point of being unconscious. We're unconsciously going around in the world and not really paying attention to other people's body language and what other people are saying to us without words. And for me, there's a lot of times where I'm trying to either leave a conversation or change the subject, and people aren't picking up on that. And it's really awkward when someone is so unconscious and there's so much, paying attention to themselves and not really what's going on around them, that they don't realize that maybe you're making other people uncomfortable, or maybe you're not putting yourself out there the way that you think you are.
Yeah, the idea for the topic of this show actually came from a one-on-one coaching session I had with a young man that I mentor. And I guess a while back I had talked to him about the possibility that people that are in his life are narcissistic and have ill intentions or selfish intentions to really get from him and use him. And when I had that conversation with him, for whatever reason, he saw value in that. And so my last session, he said, "Hey, Alex, I want you to talk more about that, because I feel like that's an art form that I really want to develop such that I don't get taken advantage of moving forward in my life." And I thought that was very profound of him to be able to see the value of reading people and learning how to observe people's intentions and how they're feeling and what they're communicating to you silently or unconsciously, so that you can help navigate that interaction in a powerful way such that it's effective for both parties. And so when we were talking, I said, "That's a great show idea." And so I wrote that down, and I wanted to talk about this because I think that most people don't realize that people are always communicating to us how they're feeling, what they're thinking, their intentions. But we can only recognize that when we are totally 100% present in the moment and we're observing at a higher level, and we're really highly aware of what's being projected onto us and what people are emanating from them.
Yeah, and speaking more to things being projected on, especially when you're a kid, or even when I was a kid, I can remember times where someone else's frustrations, even now, have been projected onto me, or someone else's attitude about something else. And I really 100% believe that people don't mean to do that on purpose, that there's no one out there that's genuinely like, "I'm so upset, I'm going to make everybody just as upset as me, and I'm going to do it on purpose today."
Right. If I'm having a bad day, and then everyone's going to have a bad
Yeah,
day.
I really genuinely do not believe that that's what people mean to do. However, that is what they're doing in their unconsciousness. So
It's actually not what they're doing. They're not like you said, they're not intentionally trying to make everyone have a bad day. They're just having a bad day, and it's just being projected out. What's happening is the common person that's unconscious is allowing that projection to affect them such that they take it personal, and then they too now are affected by it, and they're having a bad day. Like, I don't want you to say it like that's what they're that powerful that they're actually creating that with everybody, because someone else can walk into that environment and have the perspective of, okay, that's your stuff, and I'm not going to let you get that all over me, and I'm not going to ruin my day just because you're having a bad day.
I'm laughing because there's so many times where either I'm out at a restaurant or I'm somewhere anywhere, and I'm gonna use the restaurant as an example, and maybe the waitress to me is being kind of rude,
Right.
and I'll look over at my friend and be like, "She's rude, huh?" And and my friend will be like, "No." And I just have like this thing with waitresses or waiters being rude, and to me, because maybe because it's a service job,
Yeah.
I
You
have
have
it.
them in a box that
I
they're supposed to
really,
show up this way
I
all
really
the
do. And if
time.
they're not, because my sister's a waitress and she's really chipper, like, "Hey, welcome everybody," and if they're not like that, then I'm like, that was weird. So, but I'm laughing because I'm notorious for thinking waitresses or waiters are rude when they're not,
Right.
and that's totally my own thing that I'm pushing or projecting onto that waitress. And sometimes I could probably be responding to that if I think they're being rude. I can unconsciously be rude back, and obviously that's not what I mean or want to do. So but yeah, it's funny that this is when you introduced this topic to me right before the show, I was like, what is he talking about? And now I'm realizing that I'm kind of doing some of those things.
Well, we're all doing it, whether we're reading and observing how people are choosing to show up in that moment, or if we're the person that's projecting certain things about how we feel, our own walls, our own protective energy. One way or the other, we're either communicating or receiving that communication on both parties. The question I want to ask is, how is this important to know as a parent and or a teen or a child to be reading each other in our relationship? So let's start with a parent. I know you're not a parent, but you have great insight about parenting from being a conscious child and growing up, being more aware than the average teenager. How is this important, and why is it important for parents to really learn this skill to read their kids?
Well, I think teenagers especially are more, I don't know if they're more conscious or more observant or whatever word we can use. I'm going to use observant. I think teenagers are more observant than parents are because they're in that young, curious state. So naturally, we're just paying attention more.
But
So,
you're probably also paying attention more because you're trying to find that moment where your mom and dad are in the best mood so that you
oh,
can
I
get what
doubt.
you want, right?
If I wanted a piece of candy, I was trying to figure out what
What's the
time of
right?
the day
Yeah.
to ask.
But what's funny is the reason why you're trying to find when's the best time of day to ask. You're trying to find when is my mom in a better mood. So you're really, when you're young, you're reading your parents better than they're reading themselves. And I'm hoping that you would agree that we are always, as parents, communicating our mood or how we're feeling, or what's going on in our mind, or the stress that we might be holding on to. Or is it not correct that you guys are reading us really hyper aware
Oh
of
yeah,
that?
and not only are we reading you guys, we're modeling our actions and our decisions. We're doing everything based off of your current mood. And I can give an example. I remember when I was younger, if I wanted to spend the night at my cousin's house, I would read what mood my mom is in, and then all of the cousins would all get together and we'd come up with a plan. You're going to ask this mom, you're going to ask this aunt, you're going to ask grandma,
Wow.
we would sit there and strategize the best
You're
way to
kidding me.
get them to say yes. Because sometimes someone would go, "Oh, but I have a soccer game in the morning." Okay, well, how about this person asks for you? She's not going to say no because you're the youngest.
So I was being played all
Oh
those
yeah.
times when my niece would come up and ask if you could spend the night.
Yes, that was all planned.
Now
That
I
was
get it.
planned.
I get it. Okay. Because I can't
So
say no to my little niece. Because can Jasmine spend the night? I'm like, but she has a soccer game tomorrow. Please. And she's batting the eyes like, all right, maybe we can figure something out.
yeah, that's what I'm trying to explain, that your kids are constantly, even as teenagers, in different scenarios, they're doing very similar things. And I think that there's a lot of stuff that you're not seeing going on in your home that we know about. I'm saying we as the teen, even though I'm not a teen anymore. But there's a lot of stuff that's going on that we know about. Maybe we don't say anything, and then we base all of our decisions following those events or following that information that we have. So if we know that maybe money's tight, maybe you're putting off a vibe in the family that we have no money, and I really, really want a piece of candy. I'm 10 years old. Maybe I'm going to steal a candy because I know that you can't afford it, so I'm just going to take it.
Or
There's,
that I'll say no because of how I'm showing up in that moment. If I'm frustrated, if I'm annoyed, I'm short, you're not going to ask me for something that you want or need because of the fear of getting a no or being rejected. But you're probably reading and feeling those vibes from me, and you're learning that at an early age,
yeah,
how to read people.
and I want to say there's nothing. A part of me, a part of me really sympathizes with parents, and I want to say there's nothing that you can do sometimes about that. Even though I know that there is, just I, I'm mostly trying to say is there's no way to 100% be conscious all the time, to always know when to be, how to be around your kids. You can't do that all the time. I hate to say it, but I really genuinely believe it's impossible. So what's the strategy here, like for parents? Where do we go from here knowing
The
that?
strategy is to embark on that journey of conscious living and being present in the moment and really learning some powerful life distinctions such that it frees you up to be more unattached to things and less resistance to the things you can't control, so that you're always freed up to be inviting to others, especially your kids. You got to learn how to free yourself up from stress and anger and annoyances and frustrations and master your own inner state such that you're more of a welcoming force. You're an energy that's inviting people to come and either ask you for support or invite you to certain things. You want to turn people on, not turn them off. And so it just really boils down to, how do you live your life? How are you showing up in your life? How are you projecting yourself to others such that they're reading you, that you're always a warm, welcoming invitation to any kind of possibility?
Yeah, and I think and a lot of kids will probably say this, and well, at least I've experienced it in the teen trainings. I always hear kids say when we're asking, oh, what do you wish your parents could be more of, or what are you looking for from your parents, they're always saying, I wish they would be more open-minded. And I know that for me, that's at least the common one. I don't know if that's usually what you get, but in that, it's more than just being open-minded. It's being open in general, being loving, being paying attention. It comes with all those other things, but I think for me, the reason why open minded comes to mind is because there's a lot of times where you guys as parents, you guys are saying no to us, and it really has nothing to do with the thing or the act. Sometimes it just feels like you're just saying no just to say no.
No, I agree.
And whether that's the case or not, there's probably some background things that are going on. But if you don't communicate that, then you're closed minded and you just don't want me to go hang out with my friends. And it never shows up the way you think it
That's
is.
right. Actually, that's some of the exact feedback I got from teenagers in the training rooms for over 20 years. And part of some of the insight I give in the book, The Inspirational Parent, is that when I ask kids, what do you really need and want and yearn from your parents, that's one of the things that they say. And to really kind of bottle it up, what they're saying is, I want my parents to be open to all possibilities without automatically saying no to things. And what they're saying is almost what you're saying. It's not about whether I get what I want or not. It's just, when I ask you, I want you to consider it. Parents aren't considering anymore. They're just hearing the request, and they're from automatic pilot just going no. And instead of saying, you know what, let me think about it for a minute, give me some, or tell me more. What are you thinking? Instead of being operating from a place of being open to all possibilities, I think most parents unconsciously are so rigid that that request better come in the perfect form at the perfect time with the perfect information and the right words for it to come in and be considered in that instinct for me to say yes. So what they're saying is, Mom, Dad, at least, I don't care if you tell me no, but at least consider it. You're not even thinking about even open to anything that I have to say, because 9 out of 10 requests are all no's. And it would really help me feel better about myself coming to you and opening up and sharing and requesting things if you just consider things a little bit more. Even if you pondered and said, give me 10 minutes to think about it, at least that's letting me know that what I have to say is important, it matters to you, such that you're taking time to even consider the possibility of saying
I
yes.
really like the tell me more side of a response, because I remember for me growing up, if I wanted to do anything, I was like in my room making cutting magazines out for a presentation. I was making PowerPoints. I remember with my friends, they'd be like, "Guys, my dad said that we could all go to Six Flags, but we gotta convince him." So we'd put a poster board together. "Guys, my dad said we could take a road trip to San Francisco. Let's put a PowerPoint together." Like we I have so many memories with my friends and my sister just doing those things, like the excitement of, oh, they're considering this, like they didn't say no right away, and sometimes you did say no after and it felt like the end of the world. But that was one of the things that even to this day my friends will always say, like, they'll always say, obviously, because you guys are cool. They'll be like, oh, your parents are so cool. But when I was younger, that was a big thing. It was that you would get all of my friends to be a part of the whole process. So it wasn't just giving us whatever we wanted or saying no, for no reason, or what we felt like was no reason. But, feedback for you and mom was all of our friends thought you guys were so cool because you always had us up to something. Like you always had us presenting something. It was never, we always had to work for something. And even if it was something that you could have easily said yes to, going to Six Flags, spending the night at our friend's house, things like that, you could have
Or
easily
taking
said,
a road trip to San Francisco by yourself.
you could have easily said yes or no to those things, but every time you were always asking for more information, and that would get us excited. That would get my friends excited, and they'd be like, calling their parents, like, Jasmine's parents are thinking about it, or what about you, and then they'll think about it too. So it really caused I guess it caused like a domino effect in a way, or a shift in our friends and even our friends' parents, and I don't know. I think that really shaped a lot of us, like, if that makes sense. It shaped, like, we weren't so used to getting told no or yes. Like we really had to work for the
Well, that
thing we
was the
wanted.
intention. I think, I don't know if me and your mom actually sat down and made a pact that we were going to be like this. I think it was just a collective consciousness decision that we wanted to really develop and raise little mini leaders. We didn't want to project that we're the leaders and you're the followers, because then you'll just grow up to be more, you'll be an older follower. We wanted to consider possibilities and give you guys opportunities to figure out how to find the research, collect the data, and then articulate yourself in such a way that you've enrolled us and you've inspired us to say yes. Like I was, when we would say, well, go get more information and then come back and let me know, I was rooting for you guys. I really wanted you guys to sit there and have me kind of go through all my checklist of fears and have you just kind of shut them all down with your reasoning and your validation that you are responsible and you have considered those things, and that you're proving to me that you are capable of earning my trust, such that when I say yes, I know that you're going off, taking it like it's a precious gift, but that we say yes because we considered it and you put the work into it, that you're going to go off and go off on that journey, knowing that we totally could have said no and we gave you that opportunity and that you earned it. So it was more of the come from of wanting to build little mini leaders rather than just being a dictatorship in the home and just telling you no, 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 and then wonder why later on you have no voice, wondering why you're so timid and shy and that you're afraid to challenge things in the world, and wondering why you don't have no confidence and those kinds of things. So we wanted, and we raised you to build you guys up and to give you that space to find your voice and to stand up for yourself and even to challenge us a little bit.
Yeah, and in that I can definitely see how certain things you probably, no matter what we were going to say, you were going to say no. But that doesn't mean that there wasn't room for negotiation or something else. And in the San Francisco scenario, that whole PowerPoint and poster presentation was actually to go to Canada. So we wanted to take a road trip to just the border of Canada, and we ended up negotiating San Francisco.
I forgot that.
So,
I forgot that.
so really in that, I knew there was no, after I did the research, there's no way 18-year-old me was going to Canada. But I knew that there was room for a halfway point. I knew that there was somewhere else that I could change your guys' mind to go, and that's kind of where the PowerPoint went and the presentation went. So it was cool to see that.
And I'm sure that from other interactions with us, you really got the distinction of negotiation. We probably didn't tell you that, but based on us negotiating with you, in your mind, you were like, all right, guys, we're going to shoot for Canada, but if we fall on somewhere in between there, you guys okay with that? And you guys, I'm sure, were excited about it. So that's a whole nother show, another topic about negotiation. But you were clear about learning that distinction, that we can negotiate somewhere. Let's create a win-win, Dad, right, is what happened. And I'm glad you guys got to experience that for yourselves.
Well, we got to take a quick break. We'll be right back. Stay tuned for more of The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS.
Santa Clarita, bedbugs are taking over our city. They've invaded our homes, our businesses, and most importantly, our sleep. If you have suspicious bites that appear nightly, or have a bug that you need ID'd, your best option is to make one call to All Pro. We offer a 100% guarantee that your bedbug issues will be solved with heat in one treatment. No need to tent or spray your house with chemicals. Heat is all you need. Call 661-298-2200 or text me a bug picture to 661-645-0540. It's time to sleep tight again, SCV.
Drugs or alcohol abuse can tear a family apart. In Santa Clarita, just like everywhere else, it's an epidemic. The Way Out Recovery is here to help. Call them now at 296-4444 or visit them on the web at thewayoutrocoveryscv.com. The Way Out offers outpatient treatment for adolescents, adults, and family members. The Way Out is compassionate, caring, professional, and confidential. You and your family don't have to suffer any longer. Call the Way Out Recovery now, 296-4444, or visit thewayoutrocoveryscv.com and make an appointment. Asking for help is the first step.
All-Star Sports Grills is the best place in town to catch a Dodger game on one of their 17 screens and choose a cold one from 23 different tap beers. All-Star Sports Grills prides itself on their fresh, made-to-order menu, including half-pound Angus burgers. Enjoy an All-Star comedy show the fourth Wednesday of the month. All-Star Sports has a pets-friendly and smoking patio. All-Star Sports Grills on Bouquet Canyon, north of Plum Canyon.
A Royal Suite.
A Royal Suite is proud to be celebrating its 40th anniversary as Santa Clarita's full-line home furnishing store and World Series sponsor. To celebrate the Dodgers, for the first time in its history, a Royal Suite is offering 50% off of everything in the store. Bedrooms, dining rooms, living rooms, recliners, and Murphy beds, all at half off. A Royal Suite Home Furnishings in Centerpoint across from Sam's Club or at aroyalsuite.com.
Hey, this is Ellen Kay, and I'm so excited about Exer More Than Urgent Care in Santa Clarita. It's now open at the corner of the Old Road and Constitution Avenue. Exer More Than Urgent Care is the ER alternative, built and staffed by ER doctors. With on-site lab, x-ray, and pharmacy, Exer has more medical services than a typical clinic. Walk in and be seen in minutes. Open 7 days a week from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. For more information, go to exerurgentcare.com. That's EXER urgentcare.com.
Coming soon to the Canyon Santa Clarita, Gin Blossoms, Eddie Money, Chris Christopherson, Timothy B. Schmidt, Petula Clark, Tower of Power, Berlin, Todd Rundgren, Jefferson Starship, John Hyatt, The Spinners, Doc M, Lynch Mod, English Beat, Sinbad, Cinderella's Tom Kiefer, Ricky Lee Jones, Ambrosia, Donovan Frankenreiter, Boogie Nights, and many more. Soulful Sunday brunch every Sunday, country nights on Wednesdays, and they're the perfect place to host your holiday parties and special events. The Canyon Santa Clarita, where music meets the soul. Tickets available through Ticketmaster.
KHTS.
Welcome back. You're listening to The Inspirational Parent right here on your hometown station, KHTS. Today we're talking about reading people. Dad, on the break, I got a text message from Lori. She's the office administrator here at KHTS, and she's out of town, and she texted me and said, "We're listening to your show, and my husband just said, 'Oh no, I'm unconsciously projecting onto the pets.'" So I wanted to bring that up because we are unconsciously projecting onto our pets. Like, they read us too.
They're actually the best at reading people because they can't communicate verbally. So what they do is they watch very intently, and they're noticing your own behavior, your moods. Our pets are so in tune with our energies because, they don't have the tool to communicate, by talking. So they're in tune with our energy and their energy, and they're kind of playing off and feeding off that. So, if they're noticing we're down and depressed, then they're going to give us that unconditional love, and they're going to want to cozy up next to us because they're loving creatures and they want to heal us and help us. So they're in tune with us, and we can unconsciously be projecting our own, fear and anger and disappointment and frustration from our own life, and then, kind of putting that on them. But I think that our pets are little angels. I mean, they're there to notice those things and cuddle up next to us and give us that love and that comfort that we need, that our own human being, inner circle of people and family that love us aren't really in tune with, because they're could be unconsciously, focusing on themselves.
Yeah, it kind of seems like pets don't really have. It's almost like they don't have a. I don't want to say they don't have a memory, but they don't have like a box like that they put us in, or they don't have
Judgment.
Yeah, it's like their love is just unconditional.
That and I'm glad you brought that up, because in my book, my first chapter, if you can get past my first chapter, a lot of people are like, "Man, I can't even get past your first chapter," because it really lands the foundation and the distinction of be, do, have, and it's more focused on who you're being rather than what you're doing in your life. And dogs and animals and our pets are pure being. They are just unconditional love and vulnerability and compassion. They're all the beingness, because they can't do anything other than bark or, do tricks, or, so they have to really relying on their beingness to communicate what it is that they want to try to say to you.
Yeah, and it's interesting because we have quite a few pets of our own, and we have my grandma lives with us, and she's very, very old. So when she walks into the kitchen, she's really slow. Has a very a different energy that I think they pick up on. And before, I used to notice we have a dog that goes crazy. His favorite thing is just rub up on you. He'll jump on you, bounce off, do a backflip off your leg. He just does everything. And when she comes in, he doesn't jump on her. He kind of steers clear. All of them, they steer clear from her way. And I think they know that there's a vulnerability about her in the way that she maneuvers, the way she walks, and she has to be very careful not to fall, and they somehow just kind of know to just kind of move out of the way. They don't really jump on her anymore. And it's interesting because I walk into a room and they're jumping off of me and jumping off walls. But when she comes in, they're very delicate, and somehow they figured that out.
They feel the energy that you're projecting around you. And if it's you're excited, then they're going to feel your excitement, and then they're going to get excited. And now their little kids all jumping and going, me, 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 I want your attention. But if they're watching and observing and feeling the energy of an elderly person that's coming in that's struggling or has worry or concern of falling, that communication is projected in their energy, and the dogs are feeling that. They're so amazing creatures that they really understand the art of communicating without words. Even in their eyes, they're communicating to. If you really look at some of your pets and you just stare at them in their eyes, they're communicating to you that their pain or their suffering. When a lot of times when our pets get really old and they're suffering and they don't know how to let you know that they're ready to go, you look into their eyes and you can tell, and you get this intuitional feeling, this gut feeling that I can feel your pain, honey, and I'm gonna let you now move on and transition on to a better place.
So earlier you asked me a question about why you think it's important for parents to pay attention to observe, and I kind of want to flip it around on you. I kind of went into why it's important because us teens are doing it. We're watching you guys even more. So what's your insight as far as the parent side goes?
Great question. We are not watching you because we're so unconsciously focused on our own concerns. We're focused on our own worries. We're trying to figure out how to pay bills or get the business to the next level, or all the other stuff that we have decided is more important than really being hyper aware and paying attention to our kids. We sometimes as parents we forget that my main job is to be your dad. My main job as your mom is to support you and nurture you and teach you, find moments that are teachable, to ask you open-ended questions, to draw out your greatness, to inspire you, to lift you up, to challenge you. We forget that that's our number one job as a parent, and everything else is second to none. And so I think that we are not as present and watching and observing some of the communication that you guys are projecting out that's really uncommon. And unless somebody teaches us that or points that out to us, or you have a mentor or a coach or someone that is really constantly and consistently pointing that out to you, you're totally missing what your kids are trying to communicate to you. They're trying to communicate to you that they're struggling, that they're in pain, that they're suffering, that they're confused, that they are disheartened, that they lost hope. There's so much that your kids are communicating to you that we're not aware, not present, we're not picking up on those signs.
Yeah, and that to hear you say that parents aren't paying attention really, makes me sad. It just breaks my heart that all those other things, even though I know in my heart, I know my brain, whatever, it makes sense that those things are not more important than your kids. And you know that as parents, your kids come first. But you can say that 100 times, and if you don't show it or you don't act that way, or you're not being a parent first or putting your kids first, it doesn't really look that way. So I'm sure you find times where parents are saying, like, to you, like, Alex, I don't know what to do. I love my kids. I would do anything for them, but they don't see that. And I don't know. It's kind of like, I really feel like I don't really have words because it's so sad because I can kind of like, how do you not see that? How do you not see that we know you're not paying attention to us? Like, we have eyes, we're observant. We've spent our entire lives looking up at you, watching you. And if you're getting feedback that your kid doesn't feel important, how are you going to... I don't mean to attack. I don't mean to say, like, oh, how are you going to, ignore them? Or, it just happens. I know that it just happens. And that's the part that's making me sad is knowing that, we're doing that every day to, like, even me. I probably do that in my relationships. And that could be me when I get older and have kids. So it's really, it's just really upsetting to know that that's kind of just how we operate. And yeah.
And that's the purpose of having this dialogue, is to shed light on that. And that's why it's important for me to talk about it and let you know that, I hear the cries of teenagers all over the world, from at-risk teens to some of the best leadership developed teens. Doesn't matter what area or what background you have or what status you come from. All teens all across the world are saying the same thing. Mom, Dad, what I need from you is to be present. What I need from you is to be hyper aware and observing, because I'm communicating to you all the time, and I'm afraid to come to you and share with you my pains and my struggles. And when you ask me how I'm doing, I'm going to say I'm fine. I'm going to put that smile on my face. I think one of the greatest illusions is parents buy into, hey, son, how you doing? I'm good. And as long as you get the verbal I'm good, good is good enough. And so then I move on to now starting to focus on what my worries are and what my concerns are for the family. And what I'm saying is, don't buy the I'm good. They're not. There's some stuff that they're not sharing with you. And if you figure out how to be that loving, vulnerable, inviting space, and you connect with them and rebuild that trust, they will turn to you and start to share some of that stuff with you. And they need you to be that space such that they can make sense of it and articulate it and communicate it and share it out loud, such that they let it go. It's like we have these emotional tanks that we stuff and suppress all of our negative feelings and emotions that we don't want to feel. And then we wonder later on why our kids are suffering at 20 or in their 30s or even in their 40s and 50s in their relationships. It's because they never got a therapeutic opportunity to flush all that stuff out. You know, how many of us are running to take our kids to see a therapist or a coach, or spending money and investing in their wellness interpersonally? How many of us are taught to make sure that our kids go and learn leadership skills or learn critical thinking or discovering emotional intelligence? We don't. So what we've been taught is, you know, get your kids educated and get them to school so that they have all this information in their brain, and we think that that's going to make them successful. And unfortunately, that's not the case. And I'm hoping by having this dialogue and talking about that and shedding that light on there, that more people, more parents wake up to realizing that my job to help my kids be fully well-rounded is the whole being, not just the mind, not just having a lot of information. Because one of the heartbreaking parts for me is watching very intellectual young people or intellectual people at all struggle in other areas and feeling like they're inadequate, not realizing their full potential, and really loving themselves and accepting themselves for who they really are.
Well, for me, hearing you say, I mean, like I said, the part that really made me emotional was hearing you answer the first thing that you said when you answered my question was, we're not listening, and we're not paying attention, we're not watching. And it's like, I don't know if for whatever reason it just hit me like, there's so many things to focus on and to be, caught up in and everything. And why not make your kids and your kids' emotional health one of those things, and so for me, it was nice it was refreshing to hear somebody tell the truth and say, yeah, I'm not paying attention. And I'm sure there's a lot of people listening that are, of course I love my kids, of course I'm paying attention to them. And it's not about loving them, it's about showing that, or I get the topic of the show, reading where they are and understanding where they are in the world. Because I think there's a lot of people too that I have a friend, she has a younger sister who's in high school. She's, just a teenage girl who's probably going through a lot. And they kind of go on about, she has attitude, and I don't know where she got this from. And I'm like, oh, it's a phase, it's going to go away, and, this and that. But I'm realizing that nobody really is paying attention to what's going on in her life to understand why it is the way it is. People just always chalk it up to, oh, she's a teenage girl, and instead of looking into it. And so for me, that really breaks my heart, especially to hear her mom or her dad say, I don't know where she got this from, or I don't know why. Because to me, it's kind of like, it sounds like, even if it's not the case, it sounds like they're giving up. Like, oh, I don't know what to do with her.
Well, not only that, but when you ask yourself, I don't know where she came up with this attitude, or I don't know where she came up, it's simple. She came up with it in your environment. She came up with it under your watch. She came up with it living in your family. The hardest part as a conscious parent is accepting that our kids' dysfunctions came out of the parenting box or space that we've created. Not to make you beat yourself up and be bad and wrong, but just as an awareness, as a starting point to go, okay, it is what it is. Now, how do I course correct it? How can I fix it? How can I support them and make an adjustment such that now on the back end we're learning from it and we're growing from it. But I think that's one of the challenging illusions as parents. We think that our kids got influenced by someone else, even though kids are being influenced by others. But majority of their insecurities, fears, doubts, and dysfunctions come from our parenting. You can't just take credit for all the good stuff that they're doing, and then when all of a sudden there's things that they're doing that's ineffective for them in their behaviors, and just all of a sudden now saying, I don't know where you got that from.
So I kind of want to go over some of those behaviors that are maybe parents are either ignoring or thinking are just a phase or are going to go away. Like, what is it that parents should be looking for in case they're listening right now and they think, oh, well, my kid is fine. My kid, when he says he's good, he is good. So what are those little things that maybe would trigger you to remember this conversation later down the line when it happens?
I think that, first off, you got to be open to the possibility as a parent that when you communicate and you're asking certain questions, your son or daughter is responding with multiple ways of communicating. So we listen just from the words, and we look at the words, and then we'll look at the face. So if you ask your son, how was school today? And they go, it was good, right? They're going to give you a neutral face and it was good. However, if you asked him how his softball practice went or his baseball practice went or whatever thing that they are passionate about, and they go, oh my God, it was so amazing, it was so fun, their face lights up and there was some kind of joy and a tone they're using when they're expressing themselves. So you got to learn how to read tone. You got to learn how to read facial expressions. You got to learn how to be in tune with your own energy such that you're feeling their energy when they're expressing themselves to you. Learn all the little things, the facial expressions and all the little things that you can't see where your kids are using what I call a tell. They're telling you that what they're saying is not accurate. There's something underneath that they're hiding from you. I'll give you an example. When there's sometimes I'll ask you, how are things going? You'll speak, and when you speak, there's a certain thing about you that I get this red flag inside of my heart that I know there's something deeper. I don't necessarily know that it's something wrong. I just know that you're not telling me everything, because I've experienced you when you're just giving yourself permission to go deeper and just, because you go in detail with stuff, and I see a certain light, a little sparkle in your eyes. And so when I'm asking you certain questions and I don't get anything close to that, I know you're holding stuff back from me, which will have me come back either with another question to see if I can get a little deeper, or I'll take what you were giving me, I'll leave, and then I'll try to come back, and then I'll ask it again from a more loving, more vulnerable place to see if you're willing to tell me more. If not, then I'm going to challenge you. I'm going to say, hey, Jazz, it feels like something's there's more you want to tell me. And then my voice will lower, my tone will go, come on, what's going on? You can tell me.
And everything that you just explained, that whole process, that's a lot of work.
I know.
And
I know. It is.
And I wish it wasn't, and I wish it was something that, came easier to us. And I'm going to cry again. It's just really upsetting knowing that, I guess, there's a lot of work that I have to do. There's a lot of work that...
Yeah, you get to do.
Okay, there's a lot of work I get to do, and there's a lot that that I'm realizing, like, I do stuff like that all the time. Like, I'll ask my sister, hey, what's going on? And she's like, oh, nothing, everything's fine. And I know it's not, but I just leave it because I'm like, oh, okay, well, like, not, this sounds mean, but I'm kind of like, okay, that's not my responsibility. But, one day stuff like that is going to be my responsibility, or one day, something could happen where I wish that I would have, pushed more. I wish I would have done those things. I would have came back later in a more, vulnerable, loving, soft place. And I guess just the idea of it and hearing you explain that process is overwhelming.
It is.
So,
it's a challenge. It's an everyday, all day, minute by minute, hour by hour, moment by moment, conscious choice to really be in tune with what your kids. But if you love your kids with everything you got, and you would take a bullet for your kids, and you remember holding them in your arm when you were feeding them that bottle and staring into their eyes for hours, and just as you were staring at them, you kept saying, I'm going to have you win for the rest of your life. Or, I'm going to make a commitment right here, right now, that your life is going to be all that I'm dedicated to. Sometimes we forget that as parents. Sometimes we get distracted, or we live in the assumption that, you're 21 now, you got your own life to live. Go do you. Instead of, no, you might be 21, you might be 45, but I'm still here and I still got your back, and my job is to be your father to the last breath, either I take or you take, because I love you that much, and I'm committed at such a higher level to always figure out how to have you win. Even if I can't control it, I'm always going to do the best I can to remind you that there's more in you.
I think for me, I'm kind of just realizing that you think I'll say it in the I perspective, I think I've done all this work, and I think that I've gotten so far, and I'm so proud of, like, my conscious journey, and I have this whole, and then I feel like 10 more bricks just fell on top of me that I have to get through. And
I know, and it's funny because I always paint this picture. I say, when this journey of consciousness, when you finally wake up and go, oh my God, I'm only at a 6, and that's because you look up and you see the 10. And then you really get focused on working on yourself and becoming more aware and be more present and living in the moment and fine-tuning yourself and mastering, some of your abilities and surrendering your past and letting go of your fears and having these breakthroughs. And finally, one day you go, yes, I'm at a 10. And just as you're starting to, celebrate and do your...
Is it the 10 dance?
It's your happy 10 dance. You're like, oh. Then you look up and you go, where'd that 20 come from? And it never stops. The minute you get committed now to work on that 20 and you finally do your 20 dance, you look up and go, oh my God, where'd that 30 come from? So it's just, you have to decide, this is just the way that I'm going to choose to live my life, is to constantly keep reinventing myself.
Well, and I'm thinking to myself, like, oh, I'm good at reading people. I'm really good. I know how to read people. I'm good at social cues, and I have all this belief that I'm good at this thing, and I'm realizing that there's a lot of things that and I think the part that was really making me emotional is there's a lot of things that I ignore, and that is just as bad or worse, I think, than being unconscious. Being unconscious is something that just naturally happens. Ignoring something is like knowing that there's something wrong, with your kid or your sister or your best friend or whoever, knowing there's something wrong, but kind of taking a step back and being like, you know what, this is not really up to me. I'm gonna let them be in their process, and sometimes that might not be the right answer. And it's like, how do you know when to let your kid go in their room and be with themselves, and when to step in?
By checking in with your spirit, because your spirit's always telling you, hey, right now you can easily dismiss this and say that it's her journey and she has to figure it out. But on this one, I got to override you. I got to override the brain and the ego and the fear. And the spirit goes, she needs you. Go back in there. And if you're listening to that, it's always guiding you. It's always telling you the right answer. But you got to be plugged into that. You got to be tuned into that frequency, and you have to have the volume cranked high. If you're not, you're totally not hearing the message of the spirit telling you, hey, you got to go back in there. She really needs you this time. So again, it's all about being more conscious, more present, and listening to what your spirit voice is telling you. So
in that, I guess, going back to our cute, loving pets, how do I just be like, I don't know how to just be. I'm so used to just doing. I just want to be like my little dog that just stares up at their parent. Like.
That's a great analogy. When you're asking that question, how be the dog. Would your dog look at your sister and just go, okay, she gave me that answer, I'm going to move on? Or would your dog follow her around because it feels the energy that she's not okay? And I get it that you have a busy life, and I get it that, it's very easy to say, hey, people have to get to be responsible for figuring out their own stuff. But what I'm saying is that unconsciously people are communicating to us that they're not okay, that they are hurting, they are stuck. They are reaching out for a hand, saying, hey, pull me out of this quicksand. I'm suffocating. Hey, I need you right now. And they're communicating it with their eyes, with their tone, with their body posture. Everything about their communication, if you're really present and paying attention and reading them, you can feel it. And then your spirit will tell you, hey, whatever you got on your plate, why don't you call and renegotiate or reschedule it, because the people you say you love the most really need you right now.
But we don't, or I don't.
Well, again, it's like you said, sometimes we live in the illusion that, well, that's your problem, you got to figure that out. And sometimes we do have to do this. Sometimes we can't stop our whole life to just coddle and enable people. What I'm saying is it's a dance. You got to figure out, but if you're listening to your spirit's always telling you, hey, right now that's not important. What's important is your daughter needs you, your son needs you.
We got to take a quick break. Oh, we're going out.
We're going out like that.
All righty. Thank you so much for joining us today. We got too caught up in the conversation. Thank you so much for joining us today on The Inspirational Parent. We're here every Friday from 12 to 1 right here on your hometown station, KHTS.